So we are going to continue with Unit 3 and 4, and we have already gone through Unit 1 and 2 of Block 4. So let's just look at what this block is about. So we are going to talk about the burning issues in this block. Uh, and while the earlier blocks concentrated on daily activities, this block engages us with the burning issues of the day, right? So, since we are looking at communication in daily life, so of course, we started from the basics. We were talking about daily activities, how you meet people and how you greet them, how you say goodbyes, how do you engage in social chit chats, how do you appear for interviews, how do you take and how do you give interviews, right? Other than that, we talked about how we can follow etiquettes and manners, and to what extent, because with the changing times, the definition and the parameters of the right social conduct is also changing. All right. So now, other than that, we have also discussed about language skills, right? We looked at the listening, and if you notice, in each block that we have covered, we have looked at the our emphasis was on reading, writing, listening, grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary, and of course, these are the basic tenets, right? If we have to talk about how to develop our language skills, right? Now, the language skills that we require at this stage are obviously, now, if you have been following all the blogs and if you have been going through all the exercises which are given in your book as check your progress, right? So if you're going through all of that, then there must have been consistent growth that you would have seen in your communication skills, right? And it will, of course, there are, as I mentioned earlier also, that there are theoretical knowledge that you can gain, but it will only materialize into good communication when you start conversing, when you start using them practically, right? Whatever you are learning, you have to start practicing it, right? Just doing it in your textbooks is not going to help. So, on that note, let's proceed. Um, okay, so if we have diligently worked through these units so far, we will not find this block difficult because you have progressed. Like I said, if you have been following everything, and if you do, if not, then start doing it now. You'll see a consistent change and growth and progress. So in this block, what is the advancement that we are making? It is an opportunity to express our own ideas, to debate, to think about the happenings in the world around us. Okay? So it goes beyond the formative levels, and now you are going to deal with things which are probably more elaborate in nature. Alright, so let's just revise quickly whatever we have done earlier. In Unit 1, we understood how social injustice is caused by harboring prejudices based on any kind of discrimination, right? In all ages and in all sections of society, you will see that the root cause of all social ills or social evils, social injustice is primarily discrimination, inequality, and um, power dynamics. Okay, the need to control the other person or another section, and usually this tendency becomes predominant when people are in a superior position, right? People are looking at uh, see, the pressure or the force can be applied to people who are weaker. in the system. So now here what happens that the when we say weak or when we say vulnerable, it depends on a lot of other factors. Okay, and we have already talked about that. How much access does who have um, to the facilities or to the um, apparatus that has been provided by the community that you reside in, and this is not dependent um, on the volume or the on the demographics so much as much it is about who and where and how many people are involved and who is in the power dynamics, who is it's like a pyramid, right? So whoever is on the higher level will have more control, and of course the means of control are also under the supervision of that person. So it could happen at a very smaller, whether it is at a microcosmic level, it could be at the macro level. So it could be in a unit as small as family. It could go beyond to the community, and it could be about a state, it could be about a country, it could be about the world. It depends, right? So now discrimination, or what propels, what instigates discriminative behavior. This is an issue which is, of course, psychological, political, dependent on a lot of factors, right? Now let's look at, so this was about social justice and the dynamics, the operator dynamics. Now look at how you can talk about these things when you communicate. So there is one way you discuss about it, like we have already covered in the third unit. So you can discuss about it, but at the same time, you have to start writing, okay? Because when we are speaking on the spot, impromptu, okay, then there are thoughts, and the thoughts which are there in your subconscious come out. But to enrich that thought process, reading is important, staying aware is important, exposing our minds to ideas, okay, multitude of ideas, because we have a tendency to absorb a certain thesis, and then you look at the antithesis, and then you reach a synthesis, right? A conclusion that you develop according to your experiences. So now you can try writing an essay on a social issue. We have already spoken and discussed about how you can practice speeches, but in order to make it more nuanced, you can start writing, read more. Let's say you pick a certain topic, read more on it, then you apply that while writing. Okay, so writing becomes important here because eventually this is going to help you with your communication as well. When you start writing, you become more confident, and then you start speaking about it. And when you write, you realize, okay, that maybe these things are wrong, these things are right. Here I'm committing these mistakes. When you're speaking, it is not that easy to be focused on your errors, and you should not be, because that will impact your free flow of thoughts or your fluency. So writing could help with that. Staying conscious, staying mindful while you're speaking is one thing, but staying self-conscious, becoming too conscious of the errors that you're committing or you might be committing, or trying to notice that while you're speaking, can only impact you negatively and disrupt that process of communication. So there are two ways to address that. First is, of course, like I said, that you start writing, and then you read more, then you supplement what you are writing with more ideas. You infuse them with diverse ideas, thoughts, and all the facts that you gather, keep on increasing your knowledge base on that. So writing will help you like that. Other thing is when we are talking about the errors that you commit during communication. So do not start speaking while you are, do not start observing your errors while you are speaking. Okay, um, like you have to get into that habit of being um, a natural good speaker, and that happens when you are consistently investing efforts in that, because it is not one day's work. We don't come on the stage and then just mesmerize everybody with whatever we have to say. So it is a combination of a lot of things. That's why I said that we have been working. You will look at all the blogs. It is very meticulously given by Ignu how you are supposed to, work on all the aspects which can enhance your language skills, right? So another way to do that is that you there is one concept which has already been in practice, that you speak before the mirror. Okay, but again the same thing happens while you are speaking on the spot. If you start noticing your errors or start focusing on that very time, it could disrupt the process. It could it could take away your focus from that free flow of thoughts and how you're going to articulate stuff. So one thing that you can do is probably record yourself. Take your phone. Now that technology is being used so massively, then why not, and with phone and everything, why not put it to some better use as well when it comes to communication. Use it as a tool to improve your communication skills. Place your camera, start the recording, and speak before it. So that gives you the opportunity to sit back later and analyze yourself. Other times you can just ask your friends or family or somebody, teachers, to observe and tell you your mistakes. Here you can observe yourself, and not just once, multiple times, right? So recording yourself could be a good exercise. So what are the steps that you're going to follow? First you read on certain topic, or first you just write, just write your own thoughts. Then you read more about it. Write it on the basis of what you already know. Then you read more about it. Start supplementing that writing, that article that you're writing, with more information. After this, you practice before the see what are the errors that you're committing, right? And then you note down the errors, then you work on them, come back again, record again. So this has to be a consistent process. All right, so now we move to the grammar part. We talked about infinitive verb, how we add to the verb, and examples. So to walk, okay, to and then walk. To read, to eat. Okay, we also discussed phrases and idiomatic expressions. If in case you do not get the references, you can always go back to the previous lectures and look at the other units that we have covered. So phrases and idiomatic expressions. We camped by the brook. He knew it was over the rainbow. When you say stuff like bite the bullet, break a leg. Okay, so break a leg, you don't go and break somebody's leg. You know what break a leg is. If not, then you can probably check it out. Okay, now in unit 2, we comprehend new lexical items. Okay, we learn to make inferences from the text. And we evaluated a situation and expressed opinions, right? So when I was talking about giving speeches, so you look at a certain situation and you express your opinions on it. You use different kinds of question forms correctly. That's what we learned, right? How to use the question forms correctly. If you remember, we also learned how to compare. Okay, so we had the comparative and superlative forms. Writing and delivering. If in case this is all fading in your memory, then you probably need to go back and revise. Okay, especially with exams being around. So those who are appearing for it, please go and revise it all. Writing and delivering a speech. We learned that as well. Now comes another topic, that is diary entry. So how do you write a diary entry? And what is the usefulness of diary entry? Can you think about it? What is the usefulness of diary entry? So let's see. Diary entries are a collection of pages in a diary. So nowadays we don't really keep a diary. The way in which a diary helps is that it is, you know, it has dates, so it helps you keep a track of the date that you're talking about. But people can often write it in their notebooks, and they tend to. So it's a collection of pages in a diary, and the diary entries are usually organized according to the date and time of when it was written. It depends on the individual what kind of diary entries are required for them. So sometimes, when we talk about diary entry, it is a good way to keep a track of what, and people used to do it a lot more earlier than now because there is a dearth of time as there is a lot more engagement and activity going on, and the dependence on technology, as we know. So a lot of times we just try to we end up communicating our feelings to our friends and family over text because communication is easier now, right? So we do not seem to have a dearth of people around us when we want to communicate or express. But at the same time, there are things that you probably wouldn't want to communicate to other person when you want to have a self-talk, right? When there are thoughts that you want to keep yourself, but there is a basic human need to let it out, to vent it out, right? So at that point, writing diary can be therapeutic for us. Um, so emotional state, aspirations, or fulfillment of data. So right, one purpose is that you write diary, you express yourself, things you don't want to tell other people, you just scribble it down on your, in your diary. Second thing could be if you need to recollect stuff, or if you need to write down important things, okay, if you want to track a progress or something. For example, there are apps which track your diet. There are apps which track your steps even now. So we are living in amazing times that way, where you can just know how many steps did you walk today, and but we need to put that to good use, right? So in diary, when we talk about diary entry, what happens that in other apps or the technological medium that you have, you're just feeding the data. But when you write diary, you tend to write full sentences at times. So coming back to what the subject is, communication. So it helps you develop your language and consequently your language skills and your communication skills, right? Alright, so now this was for the first and second units that we have covered already, and in general an overview of things that we have done. But of course, you need to go back to the previous videos to get the details and also refer to your textbooks. Now we'll start with Unit 3. So young leaders. The Unit 3 is young leaders, and what are the objectives? This unit will help us to understand a reading passage on leadership qualities, right? So you see how we are going through a gradual progression. We started from very basic stuff like good morning, goodbyes, and then gradually we kept on increasing our scope of communication. Right? So now we are talking about leadership qualities. So of course, when we talk about leadership qualities, then we're going to talk about how we are going to address masses, large groups of people, right? And earlier we were just talking about one-to-one communication or one-to-few communication. Now we are talking about us communicating with large masses, right? So let's see. Here, our objective is to enhance our vocabulary, get the leadership mindset, practice direct and indirect speech, how to make an impressive and convincing speech, and how to write a short biographical sketch using verbal impulse. This could be helpful when you're introducing yourself to a large group people who do not know you already. But this could also be useful when you are appearing for interviews. So, have you ever come across those situations where you are asked to introduce yourself, and if you are asked to introduce the person sitting next to you, or your friend, or your family, it's much easier. But when somebody asks you to speak about yourself, have you ever found yourself going all, like at loss of words because you don't know what to say about you. It's difficult. Like if you say too much of good stuff about yourself, there is a fear for some of the people that they might come across as pompous, as self-obsessed, right? And if you do not say much about yourself, then there is nothing to speak, right? Not much to tell. So that could be an issue with self-introduction. So practicing a self-introduction speech, or to be prepared, it's not a bad idea if you're prepared with it already. Okay. So when you're talking about a biographical sketch, it could be about important people. It could be about our leaders, about historical figures. It could be about people we know, right? But most importantly, you need to practice how to write a biographical sketch of yourself. Let's say you have to introduce yourself. There are two things, right? Where you have a lot of scope to speak about yourself. There is, like, for example, a resume, or CV, and you know that resume and CV are different. Not So you need to look at that also, for your when you apply, and that is there. If you look at the other paper, those of you who have it, BGLA, English at Workplace. So these are the things that are covered there. So you have to look at how you are going to present yourself. Okay, and sometimes it's less about presenting yourself, and it's more about knowing yourself, right? So a projection is done to create an impression on the people, but it is very important to know what we are and how we think, what we want. Okay, because it's all interconnected. The better you know yourself, more clarity you will have in life. Okay. Now, when you are expressing to yourself, you could still commit mistakes, but when you have to do it with others, then you need to be very, very sure about, the choice of words. Because if you remember in the previous units, we've covered how when we are communicating with others, we have to keep their sensibilities and sensitivity in mind. So when you're introducing yourself, then also you need to take care of few things. When you're talking to yourself, then it's a different thing. So diary entry, like we discussed earlier, could be one way where you could take some liberties, but then to work on them will ensure that you are always, you are always naturally conscious, you're always aware, and it becomes like we have spoken about Chomsky's LAT, language acquisition device. So you have to ensure that you are utilizing it to the maximum, right? And you have to put it in practice so that you are always making sense and not committing errors, because it's not possible to always record yourself or to always cross check. There's not enough time. So you have to make it a habit uh, to be correct by improving your skills. Now, think about these issues and discuss them with your friend. And if you do not have anybody, friend, family, sibling, if you do not have anybody, then probably you can write it down in your notebook or discuss it. Again, make use of online platforms, technology, and you can go and discuss it with people, right? So, what are the questions that you want to think for this unit? Are leaders born or made? Okay. What are the essential qualities of a leader? How can one develop leadership qualities? What made Mahatma Gandhi a true leader? Okay, so try and write on it, read on it, on these questions, ponder on them, and then probably discuss it with somebody, right? Reading comprehension on the way to Pretoria. So you have this comprehension passage in your book, in your textbook. You can go through them. And again, the things to ponder on are refusal, demand, consequences, physical reaction. So what happened, what happened in this episode? There was refusal, okay, refusal to comply with something that Gandhiji found, and he found it discriminatory. So the demand that he made, okay, what was the consequence of that demand? What was the physical reaction of the person who was refusing or making the demand, and of the people who are imposing, or who are who are causing that physical reaction from the person who is receiving that behavior. Okay, so the person, there is one person who is, not one person actually, in this situation there are many people, and they are showing discriminatory behavior. So what is the physical action that they are committing, and what is the reaction that comes from the person who is the recipient of that discriminatory behavior? And as a consequence to that reaction, whether physical, emotional, verbal, what is the reaction of the people again who are imposing this kind of behavior on them? So this, while you read this stuff, you need to be conscious about this. All right. And then hardships, raising voice. What are the hardships whenever anybody raises voice against something which is oppressive in nature, which is wrong? Then there are consequences, like I said, and there will be hardships associated, because if you're going to stand up against something which is already, in authority or established, there are going to be consequences. So raising voice will have consequences. There will be ill treatment. What kind of ill treatment? Is justice obtained or is justice denied? Then one has to look at the larger picture. Okay, so whatever revolution, rebellion, or reaction that people have has to be in awareness of the consequences, and consequences in the larger picture, both positive and negative. Okay, then here what becomes important is leadership politics. Okay, because anything when fought alone is much harder. So you need to have support in terms of strength of numbers. Okay, so leadership becomes important. That's how you can get more and more support. The larger numbers ensure better implementation. Okay, because majority is a force if you look around. So leadership, and then inequality, okay, discrimination. Also, revolutions have to be sensible. Okay, you really need to. It should not be something which is just being done for the heck of it. They really need to have very strong reasons, and it should be for the larger good. Okay, not just for some sort of ego satisfaction. So their leadership, then inequality, discrimination again, like we talked, strength. Okay, where do you derive the emotional, physical, mental strength from? So if you look at the situation, what happened? You have to look at all these things in this episode. Where did M.K. Gandhi derive his mental strength? Or if you look at his his physical attributes, he was a fragile person, in the sense, in terms of his physical attribute. It's not like he was lifting weights or something, but he had the physical and mental strength to take ahead something so strongly, to take ahead something so huge and so strongly. He had that mental stability, right? So where is his strength? Where is he deriving his strength from? What are the reasons? What are the rise and the immediate issues? versus the long term vision. That becomes very important whenever you are choosing any um, you know any battles or any fights or any revolutions. You need to see if it is worth the time, patience, energy, investment, because each one of us has a limited time on this planet, so it has to be a cause worth it. Rebellion without a cause is just creating chaos, right? Now, okay, so there were vows that Mahatma Gandhi took, which is Swarsh Bhavna, Ahimsa, Satya, Steya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha, okay, Sharishrama, Aswada, Sarvatra Bhayavarjana, Sarvadharma Samantava, okay, Swadeshi, Sparsh Bhavna, we will cover that. So you see these were the vows. So can we say that all these vows that he took, it wasn't like he was sitting in the train and he had all these ideas prepared in his mind. Of course, as he evolved, as he went through myriad of experiences, struggles, observed more, his exposure increased, started analyzing the malpractices and the reasons behind, right, the causes, and he started addressing it from the core, and that is when he probably developed these ideas, and these vows are of a consequence which could facilitate a long-term goal, right? A long-term positive consequence for the larger good. Now, let's look at bitter words. So when I say bitter words, so we are going to talk about it. What do I mean by bitter words? So bitter gourd. What is bitter gourd? It's green vegetable. You have had bitter gourd, right? And it's not really pleasant in terms of taste, but then it is nutritious. So that's a little health tip there. But in communication, how this is relevant, we are going to see what are the words when we say bitter words. Um, Automatically, the thought in your mind is words which are going to be harsh, right? That's because of the usage that we have had of the term bitter. So when we say bitter words, how can words taste? Words don't taste bitter, right? So words sound bitter. Can make you feel bitter, right? So we automatically know that when we are using bitter with words, that has a certain sense. Okay, bitter words. So it is like you're going to hear harsh words, words which do not make you feel pleasant. So when we talked about bitter gourd, it's not something that you eat and you are like very choice. Okay, you eat it because it is healthy, it is nutritious. You might also like the taste if it is prepared in a certain way, but you can't really pluck it and eat it and you are going to enjoy it. So it creates an unpleasant taste in your mouth. So similarly, bitter words can create unpleasant emotions, right? Bitter pill to swallow. So bitter pill to swallow could also mean a pill which is bitter, so you can't eat it. But it is also used to express something which is very difficult to accept. Okay, so if you say that she flunked in the exam and it was a bitter pill for her to swallow, or for him to swallow, it was very difficult for him or her to accept that they flunked or they failed in the exam. Okay, now to the bitter end, which is to do everything possible. Bitter tears, so remorseful. Bitter enemy, a feeling of hatred for someone. Bitter wind, extremely cold and biting. Okay, so if you are abandoned, estranged on a really good place, so when you have those chill winds, and even if you are well clothed and everything, sometimes it will be too much to bear, and you feel that stinging chill. That is biting wind. Okay, so bitter wind, biting cold, Okay, so again, the cold is not biting. Biting is what you bite something, with your teeth. So biting cold is again used in the sense, in the same way bitter is being used. Okay, bitter disappointment, so a deep feeling of anger and unhappiness for nonsense. Okay? So these are the other things which you can look at: cruise, excursion, expedition, tour, trek, outing, hike, safari. We would come back to them if we have time, otherwise, you can look at them in your textbook. It would be cowardice to run back to India without fulfilling my obligation. So, here, cowardice is formed from coward, and the adjectival form is cowardly. And the word comes from, the noun comes from oblige. The noun is obligation and verb is oblige. Okay, and adjective would be obligatory, so it says obligatory duty. So you see, noun is obligation, oblige, verb is oblige. So let's look at a few more words so that it becomes clear. So noun, bore, bottom, verb bores, adjective boring. Okay, adverb boringly, ly, boringly. Okay, so now let's look at the noun form authority. So when you say, when you have to use it as a verb, authorize. She authorized her to take charge of the household responsibilities. He authorized her to take charge of the official responsibilities, right? Authoritative. Now this is an adjective. He had a very authoritative behavior. Okay. She had a very authoritative behavior with her sister. Okay. And verb would be authoritatively. Okay. Ly again. So she asked for the book very authoritatively. Okay. Noun, severity. Now adjective would be severe. She had severe pain in her stomach. Okay, he addressed the issue, or he severely condemned the negligence of the local authorities. Right. All right. Disturbance. Again, you can look at these words: disturbance, disturb, disturbed, necessity, necessitate, necessary, necessarily, quietness, quieting, quiet, quietly, extremity, extreme, extremely, permission, permit, permissive, permissible, volunteer, volunteer. Look at the word here. It's again the same, but it can be used both in noun as well as in verb form. So let's say if you say, he is a volunteer um, for the um, girl child movement, or for the, let's say, um, he's a volunteer for the educational conference at the college. And at the same time, you can say, now you can use the same word as a verb by saying that few students from the college volunteered for the girl, uh, girl child movement being conducted by the um, college social work department. Then you can also say that that he wanted to uh, volunteer, or he, again you can say he volunteered for the conference that was organized by the college. So here you see volunteer is being used. I would like to volunteer for this project. So volunteer is being used both as a noun as a and as a verb. Voluntary. Um, it was a voluntary admission. Okay, it was a voluntary deposition. So yeah, here what is happening? Adjective is being used, and when you have to use it as adverb, so voluntarily. Okay, guys, do you know what is code switching? Code switching is, as bilingual people or multilingual people, we tend to use multiple languages more than one languages. So sometimes what we're doing when we are speaking in informal or semi-formal situation where this is allowed, we tend to switch between the languages that we know. Okay, and that again happens very sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously. So that's called switching, talking about daily communication. So as people who are not native speakers of English, we need to understand this process and see how we you know uh, how we can take charge of that, since we do not have ample time to cover this right now in the class. But you can always go back and do more research on this. That will again help your communication skills. Now, adverb is voluntarily. Listening, a speech. Attempt the check your progress exercises given in your book. Now, speech of a student or leader, a speech of a student leader. Now, this is something that is already given in a book, so you can take a look at it. This is an exercise, and if you see uh, the exercise in your textbook, this can be used as a reference for your self-introduction. Right? Now, grammar, direct and indirect speech. So, what happens? Let's look at. Let's look at these sentences. A railway servant came and asked me if I wanted one. Now, this sentence can be rewritten as a railway servant came and asked me, do you want one? Okay. So, a railway servant came and asked me if I wanted one. So, you see what is happening? This is indirect speech. What would happen in the direct speech? A railway servant came and asked me, comma, within double quotes, do you want one? So you are directly quoting what the railway servant said. This is direct speech. So he obviously said it in the present tense. So you're using in the first half, you're using the past tense. The railway servant came and asked me. But because you are directly quoting the person who said this, you are using the present tense because he said it in the present tense. So, double quotes, whenever we use double quotes, we are exactly quoting the person. Do you want one? Now, if we have to write it in indirect form, how will we, indirect speech, how will we do that? A railway servant came and asked me if I wanted one. If I wanted one. So there are no double quotes, there is no direct quoting of the person who said that. You are telling in your own words, so it is not in present tense now. If I wanted one. Okay. So sentence A is indirect speech and sentence B is direct speech. The sentence within the inverted commas is an interrogative sentence. Okay, because interrogation, you already know what interrogation is, questioning. So do you want one? It's an interrogative sentence. Okay. Now this interrogative sentence belongs to yes no category, because what would be the answer of do you want one? Yes, I want one. No, I do not want one. Whatever that one is, whatever he is asking for. So yes, I want. Yes, I want. Let's say he is asking for blanket. So do you want blanket? Yes, I want blanket. No, I don't want a blanket. Right? Yes or no type of question, interrogative sentence. Now, here if or whether, when there are yes or no type of question, and when it is changed from direct to indirect speech, if or whether will be used as a connector. So look at this sentence. A railway servant came and asked me, do you want one? Look at the indirect sentence for this direct sentence. A railway servant came and asked me if I wanted one. Okay. Whether I wanted one. So if or whether is being used as the connector. Alright, I hope this is clear. You can look at it. The tense in the interrogative sentence is in the present, whereas in the indirect speech it is in the past tense, like we have already discussed. The pronoun you in the direct speech is changed to I in indirect speech. And in reporting questions, the indirect speech is introduced by such verbs as asked, inquired. Okay, so railway servant inquired, asked. So the pronoun, if you look at the E part, the pronoun you in the direct speech is changed to I in indirect speech. The pronouns change according to the speaker and who is spoken to. Now you can attempt check your plural 6 in your textbook and write a short, read the short bibliographical sketch of Nelson Mandela, which is given in your book. Okay, so the pronunciation. Will you leave the compartment immediately? Okay, will you leave the compartment immediately? Haven't I the right to travel first class? Just looking at the pronunciation now. Don't you understand simple instructions? Shall I not try to root out the disease of color prejudice? Shall I not try to root out the disease of color prejudice? Hasn't justice been given to you? Isn't this justice to be treated badly? Can't we lodge a strong protest? Don't you know this is a different country? Do you want me to throw you out? Shall I call the police? Okay. Now, when you are speaking verbally, if you look at these sentences, your tone, your pitch, everything helps the person to understand what you are saying and in what tone is it being said. And a lot of textual miscommunication is happening due to the lack of that. So you have emojis, like I mentioned earlier also. You have emojis sometimes to express. But then again, in textual communication, you cannot see the facial expressions of the person, gestures, his or her tone, right? So they can. That's why we see that the aggression in communication is increasing because people are interpreting the text in the state of mind that they are. So you could have said something really nice, but again, it might have been taken in the wrong manner. So, and that this part is being covered in pragmatics in linguistics. Okay? Let us sum it up. In this, you read about Mahatma Gandhi's suffering, colour prejudice, how he emerged stronger after exerting rights, and his great leadership qualities. The reading passage is a morale booster which inspires you not to bow before injustice. In the vocabulary section, so that was from the reading section. Now in vocabulary section, we learned that words are formed from the root word, right? Or any word, like we looked at the verb form, noun form, adjective, adverbial form, right? So in the vocabulary section, also bitter and journey, the words which are associated with how bitter can be used in various ways. The listening and speaking sections taught us to make convincing speeches and about leadership qualities. The grammar section, writing section taught us to use language differently by using direct and indirect speech. We also had the practice in pronouncing question forms with the correct intonation. Now unit 4, doing away with exams. Okay. Now doing away with exams, unit 4, as many of you are appearing for exams, this might be useful. Form an opinion about the evaluation. So what is the objective? You form an opinion about the evaluation system in schools, the viability of exams and whether exams are important or not in the present form. So if you're appearing for exams, first of all you should focus on the exams, and then maybe after the exams you can think about these issues, okay, and probably discuss and express your opinion. But for understanding this topic, develop vocabulary related to examination. Okay, so when you think of exam, I understand that a natural reaction could be stress, but or even enthusiasm, or in rare cases, but that these could be the reactions. And then you understand the use of main clause and subordinate clause. Express yourself on a given topic logically and systematically. Understand the use of main clause and subordinate clause. We have covered this already in the previous classes. And you express yourself on a given topic logically and systematically. Okay. So a little warm-up exercise. All of you are familiar with the examinations? Discuss with your friends. Are you afraid of exams or do you take them as a challenge? It is actually good to think about that right now. If you are afraid of exams, then think of it as a challenge. If you think of it as a challenge, then don't be afraid, right? What scares you more, the prospect of not doing well or of not living up to everyone's expectations? If you are afraid of exam, then this is a very good question. What are you supposed? You need to see. What is scaring you more about the exams? Is it because you scared that you're not going to perform well, or are you scared that people are going to judge you on the basis of your result? Okay. So when you decipher the exact cause behind, then you'll be able to probably talk about this evaluation system, schools, viability of exams. We'll have more opinions on this. So when you explore your internal world, then you will have better ideas about your external world. Now, do you want to do away with the examination system in its present avatar? Yes. So, like I said, that this can be connected to the external world. So first you explore yourself. And don't just suggest the problems, also come up with solutions. So what are the alternative assessment methods that you have in mind? Now, seeking counselor's advice. So this you can go through in your textbook. So let's look at this conversation between Dr. Matthew and Rahel. So due to academic stress and everything, it is being followed in many schools that now they have counselors who help students to cope with their fears and anxieties. And if they are not there in the schools, then there are many services available where people can call and talk. Okay, so and that happens because people get so not only children, even adults, they get so scared of the exams that more than the lack of preparation, it is the fear that stresses them out. It is the fear of failure, right? So let's look at this conversation. Rahel says, "Good morning, sir." Dr. Matthew says, "Good morning, Rahel. Sit down. How may I help you?" Rahel says, "Sir, my exam starts next month. I'm scared that I might not do well." Dr. Matthew says, "Why do you think so? Have you not completed your syllabus or revised well?" Rahel says, "Yes, sir, I have. I have revised it thoroughly, but tension keeps me awake throughout the night and I feel I have forgotten everything." Dr. Matthew says, "The most important thing is to relax. Try and stick to a normal routine." Rahel, "But how do I relax? I'm tensed all the time." Dr. Matthew says, "You can try meditation or yoga. That will help." Okay. Just as an alternative suggestion, if Dr. Matthew says, "Why do you think so? Have you not completed your syllabus or revised well?" If in case, instead of Rahel, your answer is yes, "No, sir, I have not," then you need to understand that no time is less time and there is enough time, and whatever time you have available, it's good enough to prepare now. Okay. So, tips for exam preparation: start studying early, read through entire of your notes. I mean, your entire day has 24 hours. So wake up early, start studying, get proper, recharging sleep that recharges you. Okay, so if you studied for, let's say, 5 hours, just take a nap for 1 hour or so, or 2 hours, and then get up and then wake up and then do the stuff. Prepare notes in short form so that it's easy to refer to them. Get some good notes. Review past tests. Look at the past question papers and answers that you have written. If you have not written, you can start doing that now. Take notes while you study. Do practice questions. Okay. And Rahil, there is a continuation of that conversation. I want to do really well and get a good position. That is a good idea. You must stay focused on your goal and not worry about it. This is a good advice. You must stay focused on your goal and not worry about the result too much. Just keep on working. Just keep on working. Sincerity always pays. All the best to you. Well, says thank you, sir. So, grammar, main clause, and subordinate clause. We have already covered this in previous classes, but let's go through this once more. The principal clause is the main or independent clause, whereas the subordinate clause is the dependent clause. It can't stand by itself and make good sense. So, read the following sentences. You advised that I should think before answering the papers. So, and there are other sentences. You'll see that these sentences consist of two clauses, the principal clause and the subordinate clause. So, the subordinate clause has been underlined in the above sentence. Sentences. So, I should think before answering the papers. You advised. So, you advised subordinate clause. I should think before answering the papers. Main clause. I asked my biology teacher what I should do to save it. Okay, so what I should do to save it. Again, you look at the sentence. Where there is a fuse in my house, I should know how to do something about it. Okay? So it's not necessary that the sentence which this entire sentence starts with, the clause with which the entire sentence starts with, is going to be the main clause. It could be in the beginning, it could be, if you look at the sentence, third sentence, it could be at the end also. You just need to identify on the basis of their dependence on each other. Subordinate clause will be dependent on the principal or main clause. Now, an essay, writing an essay. While writing an essay, you must remember a few things. Divide your essay into short paragraphs. Each paragraph should express one theme or topic. Within the paragraph, there should be unity of theme. The ideas in paragraph should progress in a logical order. So the keywords here are divide them into short paragraphs, express one theme or topic, unity of theme should be there, ideas should progress in a logical order, so logical progression, and avoid monotony, bring in variety. You can also write an essay on art exams important now that you have given so much thought to this. Second exercise is writing a personal letter. Both the letters, there is one letter which is in the reading section 4.2, and this one are not, these are just like, as we talked about diary entries, which is more like a self-conversation that you have. Similarly, this is also not meant for any reader, but are musings to oneself. So you might have heard of monologues, right? Or soliloquy. So these letters are musings to oneself. These are self-reflective. So what are the what is the purpose of a monologue or soliloquy? More importantly, in this context of diaries, diary entry, and of letters, these are self-reflective and they also have a cathartic effect. Now, I want you to go back and look at the meaning of the word catharsis or cathartic. Okay, so you get a psychological relief. So now you look at this progress exercise 6. If you were a grown-up child of this writer, what reply would you send to your father? Write it about 250 words. So you see a letterbox here, which is not a very common sight these days because we are so dependent on emails and texts that we do not post letters now. But this a letter, a postman would usually make people happy because they know that they are receiving communication from somewhere. Now let us sum it up. This unit has given us an insight into the relevance of the examination system. We also learned words which are related to examination. In the grammar section, we practiced direct and indirect speech. We were given practice in the listening and speaking skills. In the listening, we were to talk on tips to study for the examination, while the speaking section consisted of a dialogue between a student and a counselor. So you can also look at your textbook and see, are examination important? Because different people will have different point of views regarding the utility of exams. But if you view it objectively, there could be no doubt that the whole process of education will be rendered worthless if there is no evaluation or assessment of the scholar's knowledge. So, assessment should be comprehensive in nature, right? And have a great day ahead.